Welcome to The Way Home with Laura Smith, the show that brings you wonderful guests, helpful advice, and uplifting stories. The Way Home. Live inspired. Here's your host, Laura Smith.
It was a very poignant and riveting 2-minute trailer of an incredible film that is winning awards all over the place, and for very good reason. It's called Unbroken, a powerful film about an extraordinary family, and it is directed, produced, and written by Beth Lane. And so appropriately today, it seems almost like it's more than a coincidence. You tell me, Beth Lane, that today being the anniversary of Kristallnacht, that it isn't even more poignant that we're talking about your incredible film today. So thank you so much for joining us on The Way Home.
Thank you for having me, Laura. It is such an honor to be here.
Well, so I've seen the trailer. I am going to get my hands on it through, I believe there are various platforms now that I can download and watch it on Netflix, perhaps. Tell us where we can see Unbroken before we get into exactly this most amazing story.
Sure. Well, people can always visit my website, bethlane.com, and there's always a list of screenings around the country and even around the world. We're in Vienna in a few short weeks, but you can stream us on Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Fandango, Google, and YouTube.
Wow. That's just about everywhere, ubiquitous, but it's called Unbroken. And it caught my eye, actually. I knew there's a film house in Westchester County where I used to live in New York. And I always admired, they do these wonderful film festivals, and you go see great films that are beautifully done, that are, a little less mainstream. And I just love that. But I moved, so I haven't been to the picture house in Pelham for a long time, but I still get the notices, and thankfully so, because when I saw that your film was being shared there, I got very interested when I heard about the topic, and especially in the days that we are in right now. I can't think of a more important time to hear a story about the Holocaust that doesn't really just talk about the horrors of it, but about this incredible miracle of your family, your generation family, your mother, your grandmother, and all of your aunts and your uncle. It's such an unbelievable story, and do tell, bring us into it, and how it is that you ended up being the one to tell the story.
Oh, thank you for asking that question. There's not, Unbroken has been a passion project, a labor of love. I think something that began really when I was 6 years old. I had learned at that time that my mom was adopted, which is the same age that she was when she came to this country. And, my first question as a 6-year-old was, well, why were you adopted? Didn't your mommy want you? And of course, she started to explain a little bit about what you can share with a 6-year-old. But that in fact, her mother was murdered at Auschwitz, and that my grandparents, Rosalind and Joshua Spiegel from Chicago, adopted her and gave her an extraordinary life. So it really was something that was a horrible experience that turned into something very, very positive for her. And I think in the back of my mind, it was always something that I was very, very curious about, but Mom didn't have any memories. And so if you jump forward from the age of 6 up to about, I don't know, when I was in college or graduate school, my mom reunited with her biological siblings. And I was not at the event at that reunion. And I found out about it after the fact. And I was like, oh, this is fascinating. But I think I was also just very busy with my life and, being a young actress in my 20s in New York City. And I just didn't really focus on that part of our family's history. But then 10 years later, in 1996, there was a 50th anniversary reunion of their emigration from Germany to America. And that's where I got to really meet the full breadth of my family, over 72 people, which was just extraordinary. And my uncle, my mom's eldest brother, her biological brother, had written this 40-page document called A Brief History of the Weber Siblings, that you'd think it'd be pretty easy to read 40 pages, but I had just had 3 kids under the age of 2, and I was a little frazzled. And it took me years to really absorb what the document not only said, but represented. So in 2017, my mom and I and my sister and my dad went back to Germany to visit the site of her rescue where she was hidden. And we were hosted by the town historians who had a surprise for us. And they introduced us to a descendant of the farmers who hid my mother. And that was just this extraordinary watershed moment for me that allowed me to decide that if I didn't tell this story, it would be lost forever. And that's the moment I walked into being the person that said, I do own this story. I must find out more about it and I must share it with the world. Because what Arthur and Paula Schmidt, simple German Christian farmers, did for these 7 Jewish orphans, basically, is extraordinary. And it's everything that we must be understanding today with what's happening in America, on the streets of America, to think that people are being picked up off the streets by masked vigilantes who are being paid bounties. It is horrific. It is horrific to me. And so the social relevance continues to become more profound each day that the film is out there. When I made the decision to make the film, Charlottesville hadn't even happened yet. And look how far we've mired even lower into the depths of depravity here in our own country since Charlottesville.
Well, for us, for some people who have a different perspective on what's going on, for us here where I am now, coming from New York to the Midwest, we are aghast at what has been happening in New York on campuses and such, when we thought that we had come so far for never forgetting the Holocaust. And all of a sudden, where now anti-Semitism is practically being celebrated and recommended and tolerated all over the country. I say New York because coming from there and seeing, the different campuses of everything that went on. But it is so horrifying to me that after all these years of, hearing the stories about the Holocaust and hearing what happened to so many people and people like your family, it's a miracle that how many of them survived, all those siblings, 7 siblings. But here we are right back to, electing people who claim to be anti-Semites and are proud of it. And I'm just horrified by that. But leaving the politics out of it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The story of your mother and her siblings is so unreal that they not only remained alive and intact as the siblings, but they were the only group of siblings of that amount, 7 of them, that safely made it to the United States because of the heroic, things that those wonderful people, the farmers, did in hiding them. But how was it? So your grandmother, how was she found out? Why was she sent to Auschwitz? And how was it that your mom and her siblings were saved? How come they weren't all taken away because a lot of children ended up there and dying there?
I mean, that right therein lies the question, and that's the miracle of this story. It's why this story is so extraordinary, that all 7 of them, whose names were on a manifest to be deported to Auschwitz, were never sent and were hidden and survived. And I think that in this moment right now, the most important thing that we can do as students of the world, as civilians, as neighbors, as members of our own communities, we have to really drop down into a very spiritual place of source and remember why we were born. Why are we walking on this earth? What kind of a human being do we want to be? And what kind of neighbor do we want to be? How do we want to be accountable to our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our neighbors, the grocer, the dry cleaner, like how do we want to show up for each other at this moment in time and in our lives? And I think that this story resonates with so many people because that's exactly what Arthur and Paula Schmidt did. They took politics aside. They pushed religion aside. They didn't even look at race, gender, color, anything like that. They just looked at who they were as human beings and can they look at themselves in the mirror and walk towards another day, and knowing that they did the right thing, that they stood on the right side of history, and that they were human. They were being humanitarians to this extraordinarily beautiful lot of 7 siblings. It's just amazing. It's just amazing.
How did the siblings end up at this farm with these people? So the grandmother and the grandfather, they were both transported to Auschwitz. How did the kids not then get taken with them, and how did they end up at the farm?
Well, part of that's told in the film, so that's a spoiler alert. So
okay, I don't want. All right, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's okay, no problem. But it is revealed in the film, and I think the film tells it much better than I do.
Okay,
but it really is incredible. And Lena was indeed murdered at Auschwitz. However, Alexander was not deported to Auschwitz. But he's got a different story, and which is also in the movie, and so it will all be revealed.
Okay.
But yes, that's the miracle of it all. It's just that I'm even here talking to you.
Yes,
that's the miracle. That's the miracle.
So you said that your mom, whose name is Ginger in the film, she was the youngest of the 7, correct?
Yes.
And she didn't have many recollections, of course, being what this all happened at age 6. But did she know that she was one of 7 siblings?
Yes, she did know she was one of 7 siblings. And I was told at the age of 6 when I learned that she was adopted. But I was told that I would never meet these siblings, ever. And I think when you're 6 and somebody tells you no, you kind of want it more than if they had said yes. So that was part of what was gnawing at the back of my mind, the curiosity to want to even go on this quest.
Yes. And it was one brother and 6 sisters.
Yes.
And he was sort of given the charge of, you must keep all of you together.
That's right.
And how that was accomplished, that's a miracle. That is an absolute miracle. And then they all ended up here in the United States, but all in different families, foster families. But your mother ended up with her own biological grandparents, did you say?
No, my grandparents adopted her. So I refer
that's your grandparents.
Yeah, I refer to my, they're the only grandparents I've ever known, and they were just an exceptional couple. My grandfather was the president of the Neurological Society of America. He was a brain surgeon, and my grandmother was an incredible artist and sculptor. And so those are the only grandparents that I've ever known. And Making Unbroken has allowed me to really get to know my biological grandparents a little bit, through the archival research and through the photographs and through the stories that I got from my Aunt Gertrude and my Aunt Ruth, for example. My mother doesn't have very many memories, but what she does have is also in the movie.
Exactly. And 6 siblings, are they still? No, Alphonse, the one brother, he is not alive. Are any of them still alive besides your mom? Yeah,
my Aunt Gertrude is still with us, and so is my Aunt Judy.
Okay. Oh, good. So do they see each other frequently and often? How do they all live in Chicago? Where do they all live?
Aunt Judy's in Texas, so she hasn't seen the family for years. And my mom is in Chicago, and Aunt Gertrude is in Chicago. And as a matter of fact, when I was there not too long ago, I brought my mom out, who's 86, by the way, to visit her sister, my Aunt Gertrude, just so they could have they're a good 20 miles apart. So no, they don't see each other very frequently anymore. But I felt it was really important. I live in California, but my mom's in Chicago. So I wanted to see my Aunt Gertrude too. So let's go visit her. But what was really fun last spring is my Aunt Judy, who had seen a version of the film before, but she got to see it for the first time in a cinema because we were hosted at the USA Film Festival in Dallas. And so she came into Dallas, and because she lives just outside in a suburb. And so I got to sit with her in a cinema for her to actually really see the whole story for the first time.
That must have been just so incredible. I can't even imagine what that must have felt like to watch their lives up there in the film. And I can only imagine just from seeing the trailer how very beautiful it all is. When you debuted your film called Unbroken, by the way, I'm speaking with Beth Lane. She is the writer, director, and producer of Unbroken, a powerful film about an extraordinary family. You actually debuted the film on October 8th, which was also poignant in itself, very coincidental, or I don't know if it was just part of one of life's destinies, but for it to be the day after October 7th. And how did that feel for you? Was that something that was difficult, or did it make it seem all the more important?
I think it was synchronistic. It was kind of mind-blowing. We had gotten to Indianapolis to have our world premiere at the Heartland International Film Festival. I believe we arrived on the 5th, and there's big opening night and a red carpet and everything. And then on Friday, we went to see some other films. And on Saturday, we went to see some other films. And our world premiere was on Sunday, October 8th. And when I woke up that morning, my husband turned to me and he said, I just want to make sure you know what happened in Israel yesterday, because this was in 2023. And I said, no, I have no idea. I haven't checked my phone. I'm in movie brain right now. Mm-hmm. And so he explained a little bit, and it was so overwhelming that I kind of couldn't go there because I was just so, you're very energized and excited that you're about to have a world premiere of your first movie, by the way. This is my directorial debut. Mm-hmm. So he said, well, just make sure you don't say anything political. I said, okay. We were still getting information about what was happening. And what information we were getting was so extraordinarily devastating and horrific that it was something that it was difficult to absorb. Yeah. So we had the world premiere. And then what was quite amazing is 1 week later, we won Best Documentary Feature Premiere at Heartland. And the reason I care about that so very, very much is, sure, it's amazing to win at your first film festival. It's amazing to win for your first film. But for us to have won that award the week of October 7th, within the news cycle, if you will, since that's what we live in right now. And quite sadly and devastatingly, we're still living in that news cycle. We're still waiting for murdered bodies, remains to come home for sacred burial. But I just felt that the entire audience at that awards ceremony held space for what had happened in Israel. And Unbroken is not about Israel or Gaza or religion or politics at all. It's not. It is about being a humanitarian. It is about being an upstander. And it gave me such confidence that audiences are going to receive this film with the very specific intention of inspiring people to exercise their own muscles of empathy and compassion for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And to also never forget. I mean, we can't forget as horrific as they are, pretending like they didn't happen, or just they getting out of vogue of, making art about them or talking about them, or any event, whether it's 9/11, whether it's the Holocaust, whether it's October 7th. We must keep them also in focus so that people, don't forget. It's just too easy for a generation. All it takes is a generation. Mm-hmm. If things are not created to expose what really happened, it can be forgotten. And so I think it's so important. But now you have this beautiful film that just shows some of the most incredible aspects of humanity. I like how you say that. It shows obviously what happened during the war, World War II, and with the Holocaust, but it shows this unbelievable side of, I would say, miracles. I'm a deep believer. I'm a Christian believer, but to me, it shows God throughout the entire thing, shining a light on your family story. And I'm so grateful that you had the whatever it was, the chutzpah, the drive, and to go and tell the story, because it would be very easy to not, right? Because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of pain and it's a lot of this and that, but you did it. You did it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we're just so excited. We have some really amazing things coming up for us. Right now we are campaigning for so many different awards, the Cinema Eye, Spirit Awards. There's a whole list, but including the Academy Awards. We are campaigning for all of these things right now. And we also have great educational packages that are coming out on January 27th on International Holocaust Remembrance Day. So we're so excited to work very, very hard to get all of our companion curriculum and all of the educational assets to schools nationwide, if not globally. And our assets are good for fifth grade all the way through PhD and even into senior living communities. Like that's the goal with that. But then one really, really neat thing that's happening this Sunday on Kristallnacht is we have been invited to have a collaboration with this incredible fashion brand called Lingua Franca. So that's happening today on Kristallnacht.
Wow.
And Lingua Franca, Lingua Franca, they're this awesome fashion brand that makes these beautiful cashmere sweaters and cotton sweaters with hand embroidered slogans. And everybody from like Katie Couric to Oprah Winfrey, they all wear these things. And Lingua Franca is embroidering Unbroken and Would You Hide Me? The two options on the sweaters for people to purchase off the website. And Lingua Franca is donating 20% of the proceeds to our foundation, the Weber Family Arts Foundation, which is committed to combating anti-Semitism, bigotry, and hate, specifically through the arts across all mediums by sharing stories of hope.
I love that. So there's two things we need to know. Lingua Franca is the brand that's going to put the name of your film, Unbroken, on their beautiful sweaters and their apparel. And 20% of that is going to go to the Weber Family Foundation.
Family Arts Foundation.
Oh, okay.
And you can Google that too. We are having our annual fall appeal right now. We need all the help and support we can get because you guys, let's go get those awards. It is a marketing thing. So let's go get them and let's get all the educational stuff out there.
I love the fact that you have that educational component to it.
Yeah.
So important and so wonderful. And you sound like you are an incredibly amazing storyteller, and that I can just tell by the way you write and the way we've spoken now. And I just can't wait to see it. I want to encourage everybody, see the film and find ways that you can support. And hopefully we will see Beth Lane at the Academy Awards. The name of the film is called Unbroken, a powerful film about an extraordinary family. She directed it, she produced it, she wrote it, Beth Lane. And it's on so many platforms. So just Google it and how you can download it and purchase it and watch it. And it would be something I think that would be tremendous for a family to see together.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I'm so grateful to you, Laura. Thank you.
I am so grateful too. And Kristallnacht, just real quick before we end here, that is the anniversary of, tell us just the Kristallnacht, what it was. I know a little bit, but for our audience. Of course.
So in 1938, this was the pogrom that took place in Berlin that really was the catalyst, the beginning of World War II. So if we're looking at World War II history, 1933, Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany, and it did take a while for the war to actually begin officially, and many actually designate the pogrom, Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, to the beginning of the war. Mm-hmm. So it's a commemorative, it's a somber commemoration of that date. And it's a privilege and an honor to screen. We've been hosted in many different places around the world and around the country, from the United Nations to the Museum of Tolerance to the Museum for Jewish History, Center for Jewish History, many, many different places around the world. And so this event that we've had here today on Kristallnacht at the 92nd Street Y here in New York City, our panel discussion is all about archival research as a form of activism. And so to marry archival research as activism, along with even wearing fashion brands that say Unbroken as a form of activism, it's really something that I feel like we must turn these tragic stories into positive action and stories of hope. We can all do it if we come together.
Absolutely. Unbroken. As a one human family, that would be yours, and also the human family in the world. Thank you for your beautiful, beautiful perspective, your art. For any information, all information on the wonderful Beth Lane, just go to easily the name bethlane.com, bethlane.com. Once again, the documentary, it's now award-winning. She has won many awards, not just the one in Indianapolis at the Heartland, many, many awards, and I have a feeling it's going on to win a lot more than that. It's called Unbroken, and I wish you all the very best. God bless.
God bless. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you all for listening to The Way Home this week and to my wonderful guests. And may you all have a wonderful week that is safe, that's happy, healthy, and full of lots of miracles as well. I'm Laura Smith. See you next time from The Way Home.
Podcasts by Federated Media.